In Forgiveness, psychologists are famous for pointing out that as a little girl and as a little boy up to the age of 4, you've got a very strong bond with your parents. And little kids see the problems with their parents. They want to try to fix them. They want to try to solve them. This is natural, normal, healthy, childlike behavior. And Alice Miller actually writes about this in the Drama of the Gifted Child. I strongly recommend checking that out. So we see this pathology. We see all the anger, the violence, whatever it may have been in your parents and in their relationship. And you started, before you could even think about it, trying to address it and trying to solve it and trying to fix it. So it's certainly easy to see where our people-pleasing patterns begin, isn't it? So there's going to be issues with your parents in some way, shape, or form. And that energy may simply have been, oh, they were there for me, but you know, I just never really felt like they knew who I really was inside. Or it could be as the other extreme of, I was abused violently every day. No matter what their relationship was, there's some sort of a physical entanglement that's happened in your relationship. It can't be other than when we're humans interacting. So those dynamic entanglements we see in quantum physics are real. If there's some drama that went on that wasn't resolved by your parents, it's going to affect your heart. It's going to affect your kidneys or your liver or somewhere, meaningfully, bioenergetically speaking. So what we're doing here then is getting to the root of those strong entanglements with the parents. So the entanglements that they've shown of environmental influences that seriously affect our health physically. For example, if you have anger or resentment issues, then you'll have the liver problems. Fear, then you'll have kidney problems. And those are going to, in a reverse manner, be directly impacting your parents too. And your parents could be having health problems the other way around. So it's really interesting when we look at that mirroring principle that happens between us, our children, and between us and our parents. So staying away from our parents and running away and not talking to them or our children can actually even compound them and can make them worse. So studies show that distance makes no difference regardless of wherever we're living. And just like the experiment with the baby and a father in another country, you stress the father, it shows up in the baby as a stress. We know that we're affected whether we like it or not. So does it mean? It means that we're, in a way, chained to our parents, and they're absolutely the strongest change. And there's also chains to your other relationships, your brothers, your sisters, your loved ones across the board, whether they be friends or family. But the ones with your parents were the first that you formed, and they're the strongest. So we address these in FreeFall. So what we found is, if we disentangle it, and there is a process by which you can disentangle all of this and begin to set this free, that you're also going to set not just yourself, but your parents and your children free. So that's pretty interesting as well. So when we do that, changes can be extremely significant in your well-being and in their well-being. And that can even occur when the parent has physically died. There's an energy vortex that is still here. Amika Swami is a famous physicist that's done a lot of work in this field. He gives a really good explanation of it. Be sure to check it out. Okay, so it's like when people feel the presence of their father in them, and they can feel guilty when they go to do something. And they feel it like a presence, even if their father has died, and they continue to draw on that long after it. So although we use this on a small scale to ensure clarity with your parents and your own relationships with yourself, because you hold entanglements with aspects of yourself from the past that are profoundly affecting you in a very dynamic way, there is a way of disentangling it, releasing it, and breaking it free. Once you've learned the technique, you can then use it with other entanglements to free yourself. So let's say that your dog dies and you're still grieving a year later. And the reason it's not so much because the loss, it's actually the entanglement. So even though you've been grieving for that year, trying to let this experience go, there's still this physical entanglement that's formed. So we can address that the grieving process can actually begin to work in a way that's much healthier to actually disperse, release, and let go. So think of the forgiveness, plain and simple, as a severance. Often we misinterpret forgiveness. We think that it's something that it's not. We often think that it's something that's moral, a response to an injustice, that it's a goodwill, that it's a denial or forgetting that anything bad has ever happened, that it's a condoning or a condemning either direction. Forgiveness, plain and simple, is for you. So forgiveness is for I give to me, for I give to myself. Okay. So this misinterpretation is, well, so because we attach judgment and wrongdoing to these actions, and it keeps us stuck in victim and blame. So real forgiveness is to detach from that story and experience our pain without going into victim or blame or suffering. And it's simply experiencing the story for what it really is, and when that happens, the story disappears, and forgiveness is in effect. So if we are wanting to change our patterns, the thinking around this word really has to begin to change as well. So we need to sever this tie, this drama, and get back to yourself, your acceptance of you and who you are. So if you're going to harbor feelings of resentment and grudges, and I can't do that until you say you're sorry, or I'm going to continue to make you pay for all those sins that you've committed against me, then you're keeping yourself locked into that tug of war against you and who you really are. Okay. I love this quote. It's from Rowling, and she says, "People find it far easier to forgive others for being wrong than for being right." So isn't that intriguing? Okay, so when we really consciously, adultly, maturely address our energy responsible for our health by taking the step of I give for myself, you offer up this freedom for you. So to be connected to it forevermore is nothing more than continuing to disable yourself. So studies have shown that people who forgive are happier and healthier than those who hold resentments. So the first study to look at how forgiveness improves physical health discovered that when people think about forgiving an offender, it leads to improved functioning in their cardiovascular and nervous systems. Another study at the University of Wisconsin found that the more forgiving people were, the less they suffered from a wide range of illnesses, and the less forgiving people reported a greater number of health problems. Dr. John Belsheim has often said that the deadliest disease there is the inability to forgive. So people who are taught how to forgive become less angry, they feel less hurt, they're more optimistic, they become more forgiving in a variety of situations, and they become far more compassionate and self-confident. Studies show a reduction in experience of stress and physical manifestations of stress, and an increase in vitality. It supports emotional release through our amygdala and decreased cortisol levels. So there are people who have done these sorts of forgiveness exercises with everything from gang rape to severe sexual abuse within the family structure. So there's all sorts of ways that we can begin to implement this across the board. So if you find that you have those things that build up that just eat away at you over the years, you know those ones, they're the stories that you tell every Easter or every Christmas, then you are noticing the impact of the dishealth that we have, the dysfunction that we have with our lack of relationship really to forgiveness. So in FreeFall, we're cultivating this sense of health, a new attitude, a new beginning, a new relationship with something that you may not have ever really been taught before. This is a life science course, so it's the science of living. And it's remarkable to me, and scandalous actually, that so often we weren't taught this at a wee little one. And instead we were taught to say you're sorry it didn't really matter if you meant it or not. In fact, you most of the time didn't, and just said, I'm sorry, just so you could grudgingly move on and get back to playing with your toys or whatever it may be. And that actually has done quite a lot of damage in our relationship to forgiveness, because we haven't learned how to healthily forgive and move on. We've learned how to simply say the words and carry on without actually necessarily meaning it or feeling it. So certainly that is not going to set the stage for any sort of intimacy in a relationship.